Good morning, animal. What would you like for breakfast? Scrambled eggs with little sausages? Bacon and eggs sunny side up? Griddle cakes? A waffle?
Stop it, Harry. I'm warning you.
Coffee? Milk? Or maybe a little cocoa?
Why do you do this to me every morning?
Hamburgers and onions, strawberry shortcake, a filter
I'll
fish,
kill you,
chopped liver,
Harry,
chicken,
so help
a
me.
king. Let go, animal. Let's roll. Go. Hitler is waiting to see us.
Welcome to Amusing Jews, where we celebrate Jewish contributors and contributions to American popular culture. I'm Jonathan Friedmann.
And I'm Joey Angelfield.
Producer-engineer Mike Tomren is working somewhere behind the scenes. Amusing Jews is a project of Adat Chaverim, Congregation for Humanistic Judaism, the Jewish Museum of the American West, and Atheists United Studios. Jews have served in defense of the United States for over 370 years, much longer than there's even been a United States.
We're delighted to chat with Command Sergeant Major retired Samuel P. Yudin, who recently retired from the California Army National Guard and is president of the Jewish American Military Historical Society. Sam, welcome to Amusing Jews.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
What's your background and how did you become interested in Jewish military history?
So I grew up in Huntington Beach, California. Just a typical Californian lifestyle. Growing up, going to the beach all summer long, surfing, skateboarding, listening to punk rock music back then. I attended a Jewish day school, and then I continued my education through high school and my undergraduate degree up at Humboldt State University up in Northern California. It's known for its kind of nice green forests and its hippie lifestyle up there. And then I focused on studying languages. So I went over to Israel to teach English one summer, and I spent a year over in Germany at a German college learning German and German philosophy. And while I was over there, I wanted to work, but on a student visa, you can't work while you're in session with school. So I went over to the U.S. Army base and got a job as a bartender while I was in Germany on that Army base. And through that job, I learned about the Army's language school, or the military's language school. So I joined the U.S. Army when I got back and graduated from my undergraduate degree. And then growing up, I just never really heard about, Jewish soldiers, not even within my own family. I had several veterans in my family going back to World War I on one side and all the way back to the Revolutionary War on another side, and just never heard about Jewish American soldiers. You always heard about Israeli, the IDF or the Israeli Air Force. So me and my friends, wanted to be Israeli Air Force pilots growing up. And even, when I was similarly in the U.S. Army, you hear about Alvin York and Audie Murphy, but never anything about Jewish service members. So that really sparked my my curiosity while I was serving, was trying to find Jewish American service members. And in 2005, a family friend, Tibor Rubin, received the Medal of Honor in a ceremony at the White House from President Bush. And that really sparked my curiosity, because that was the first time I ever heard of a Jewish soldier being recognized as an American hero. And I spent time with Tibor over the years. Used to visit him at the VA hospital here in Long Beach every Friday on my way home from work. And a few years later, he pinned my new rank at my promotion ceremony. And so this personal connection drove me to start researching, reading, and the more I uncovered, the more I became intrigued about these amazing stories that weren't being told. They were there, they're just hidden. So I just realized that these stories needed to be told in a more impactful way.
You mentioned surfing and going up to Humboldt with the wonderful green forests and other green stuff, I'm sure. Did you have any interest in the military before you became a bartender in Germany, or was it just sort of happenstance?
Just happenstance. I never had thought about a career in the military. I had notions of maybe law enforcement at one point. There's a community college around the corner from my house, so I'd always see them running in formation those rare days that I'd wake up early. but never really considered anything to do with the military until, this connection through language and my time over in Germany.
As regarding the bartending, was that actually working for the Army, or was that under the table given the, student visa situation? Was the Army a loophole to it, or was it okay?
So no, it's so I guess it's a loophole in the way that I was a employee of the U.S. government on an army base instead of working in Germany.
Your historical society highlights Jewish involvement and emphasizes how minorities more broadly have played a major role in the U.S. military. Why are these stories important to tell, perhaps especially in today's climate?
Well, I think listening to Tibor's stories over the years and just how impactful it was on me, it made me realize that my success in the military and his success was the Jewish upbringing and the Jewish values that we had and how we applied them in the world. Tibor Rubin joined the U.S. Army out of profound gratitude for being liberated from a concentration camp by American soldiers. He was truly grateful for this country and everything that it had given him. So at a macro level, I resonated with the sense of gratitude as a Jewish American. Most Jews, if not all, are descendants of people who fled from the pogroms, who fled from the Holocaust, and even, the Inquisition years before, and communism. So the country gave and continues to give us this freedom to be who we are and free from religious persecution. So I see this reflected in immigrant stories of my fellow service members. Their gratitude and loyalty to this nation really take on an added dimension because of this history. And that specific narrative, I think, was missing from the story of our military history here. Yet it perfectly illustrates what is great and exceptional about this country. So that's what drove me to that and making sure that I told the story more broadly.
You use comic books to share stories of Jews in the American military. What inspired you to create the Value and Virtue comics?
So I have no free time. I have no particular I'm not particularly academically inclined. I'm by no means a scholar. Despite that, I dove head into research, reading, because I sought to write a book on Jewish American military history. I thought what was out there needed to be told in a different, more engaging way. And some of the traditional organizations out there didn't really reach out and meet people where they were. They're very passive. They have one, building, and if you don't go there, you're not going to learn about these stories. And even if you do, I think telling them in a more resonating way with the broader population, certainly the Jewish community, but for everyone, was really important. So I decided to flip this approach, and so I made a more engaging online presence, I believe. I organize local traveling displays, and I give frequent talks. Recently, I spoke at UCLA about a month or two ago to 300 students. And every time I go out and talk and tell this story, I'm really surprised at how engaging the students are. Generally, when you're talking about military history, you're talking about males in their 50s and 60s are your prime demographic. But what I'm seeing is when you go out and engage where people are, younger generations are very receptive to these stories. So it was really great to talk to these college students. And then I didn't grow up being really into comic books. But I knew people don't really engage with reading long, dense history books like I do now. Even with the research, it's very cumbersome, and so it's not really the best way to tell the story. So one of my former soldiers ran a comic book collective, and so he was very instrumental in giving me the tools to be able to tell the story in this medium. And I love it. My friends send me pictures of their teenage kids sprawled out on the couch reading my comic books, and every time I get a photo like that, it reminds me of that I'm doing the right thing, that I'm able to get this story out there that wasn't out there before.
Yeah, engaging young people is a pervasive problem among historical societies in general. I know whenever I'm giving a presentation on Jewish history in the American West, it is retired people, older people, Some of my colleagues say, well, there are new old people being made every day. The new old people are not as engaged as the old people. And there is that kind of problem of engagement. Certainly the old medium of academic writing and stuff, it does appeal to a certain dwindling demographic. So comic books are really fascinating as a way that's very contemporary and very much in our culture now.
Well, I think you don't have to sacrifice one for the other. So, I mean, I've applied my trade. I was an intelligence analyst in the military. So the methodology, the describing uncertainty, the cataloging of, your sources, defining how credible they are very important in what I do. I don't just go out there and make up a story and make some beautiful graphics for it. So in the process, I'm also doing incredible research that I document every step of the way. And coincidentally, when you have that much content, it's going to end up being that Jewish American military history book as well. So we'll have something for everybody. And hopefully the comics, bring people in and they sit down and read the book.
What are the criteria you use for determining whether a soldier, particularly in the olden days, was Jewish or not? I know that's kind of a perpetual problem as well in just identifying the Jewishness of any of these subjects.
So this is going to be a historian's, complex issue to grapple with, and it's never going to go away. I think as humans, we want to neatly categorize individuals and move on, or anything for that matter. I think when you're dealing with this topic, you need to be very comfortable with uncertainty. And because there's so much uncertainty, you need to be able to use the terminology to accurately define the uncertainty. And I think that is a sticking point. And then on top of that, you layer on the complexity. If you ask, one Jew for opinion, you get two opinions, right? So every single person, including a Jew, is going to have a different definition of what a Jew is. And then you're going to layer on a lot more of the complexities on top of that. So you're going to have time periods where it's very evident who is Jewish by them belonging to a Jewish community. And you see this in the Revolutionary War. You see this somewhat in the War of 1812. And then there's times like the expansion, the manifest destiny, when Jews are isolated, they're out there with no Jewish community, no religious observance. They are of Jewish descendant, from Jewish parents or grandparents or one or the other. So you add all these layers of complexity on there. So you're going to have disagreements on who is Jewish. I think the important thing here, and many of my collaborators across, the Jewish history space, I think are similar in this kind of thought that there has to be something that relates to them being Jewish. So one thing that connects them to Jewish, either identifying themselves as Jewish, because you have people that were born Jewish, raised Jewish, and then convert and are buried under a cross. And you'll have the opposite way. So there's not going to be this one size fits all. I look and examine the information available, and I will accurately depict or characterize how they relate to being Jewish. So I default for broad inclusion, and then I explain exactly how they are Jewish or not Jewish, or the probability of them being Jewish. So it's a very interesting continual discussion among everyone I work with in this space.
Enjoying the show? Click like and subscribe.
A number of legendary Jewish comics creators served during World War II, including Stan Lee, Joe Simon, Will Eisner, Harvey Kurtzman, and Gene Colan. Jack Kirby, the king of comics, saw significant combat on the European front. Any chance of doing a comic about these guys?
Easy question. Yes, definitely. I plan to include celebrities in general in our World War II issue because many Jewish celebrities played an important part in World War II, specifically athletes, actors, musicians, and of course these comic book creators. And I think it's a very important part of Jewish American military history. Jack Kirby, who you mentioned, he used to draw reconnaissance sketches and maps during World War II. Stan Lee, he was part of the Signal Corps. He wrote manuals, training films, and slogans. He went on to be a co-creator of, Spider-Man, Iron Man, and X-Men, and many other Marvel characters. Joe Simon created comics for the U.S. Coast Guard recruiting. Will Eisner, he revolutionized military training manuals. He created PS, the Preventative Maintenance Monthly magazine. And these were comics that who taught soldiers how to, take care of their equipment. And this PS magazine extended all the way until my service period. So, and we all loved those PS magazines. And then Harvey Kurtzman, he contributed to the publication Yank and edited Mad magazine in the 50s, I believe. This is an amazing part of Jewish American military history. It will get at least a page, if not more, in our World War II comic book. And it's interesting that this thread of Jewish military comic creators is prevalent to present day. So when I started doing these comics, I realized and got brought into the fold of current day Jewish American service members that make military themed comics. So G.I. Lowe, Terminal Lance, Bohica Blues, and Sky Attack Comics have a significant online presence, and I'm under the assumption that they all are Jewish American military comic creators.
What are some of your society's collections or projects?
So currently we operate a virtual museum at jewishmilitary.org. We maintain 2 traveling exhibits. One of our exhibits highlights Jewish American Medal of Honor recipients. This recently completed a 6-month run at the Orange County Fairgrounds Heroes Hall Museum. The other focuses on the broader scope of the 371 years of Jewish American military history. And this one's set to debut in Long Beach, California this fall. In 2023, we collaborated with Civil War Trails to install their first marker that specifically recognized Jewish American service members. And this commemorated a Passover Seder that happened in 1862 in Fayetteville, West Virginia. I probably own the largest collection of Jewish American military history books, and we expand, I believe, every single week. I'm buying at least 2 or 3 books to expand that collection. And part of that is we are leveraging AI to be able to make large language models so that we can analyze and use this data in innovative ways. So we're scanning those books, making our collection digital, and using AI to look at history in a new way, compile data in a new way. And it's made us, it's allowed us to be very efficient and create some incredibly new initiatives from that. Our most prized collection is the Tibor Rubin collection. We currently have 24 artifacts that are at the National Medal of Honor Museum in Arlington, Texas. I was there for the opening of that museum. It's incredible, and very, very grateful that we're recognized and have artifacts in that museum on loan for about 4 more years. We also, as part of that collection, have dozens of Tibor Rubin's POW letters, which we will be partnering with Chapman University Center for American War Letters to do a joint exhibit probably this fall on that. We also have the Mendelssohn Letters collection, and this one's very interesting. This is approximately 100 letters that were written in Yiddish between David Mendelssohn and his then fiancee Hannah, eventual wife, and he served in Britain's Jewish Legion in Palestine during World War I. So very interesting collection. Translating this from Yiddish, we've uncovered a lot of family mysteries about why there was a sequenced snake in the attic. Well, it turns out that the Turkish prisoners of war, that was their craft that they made. So when we translated the letter, and in the letter, Hannah was saying that he surprised everyone and frightened them when they opened up the box. they found the snake up in the attic and had a little bit more insight on how they got that snake up in their attic. There's also the Richard Stern collection. Richard Stern's very interesting. He fought as a young boy in World War I for the Germans, received the Iron Cross. There's a very famous photo of him standing outside of his business with a Hitler Youth enforcing the Jewish boycott. He eventually moved to the U.S. And he enlisted in World War II at the age of 45 and received the Silver Star as an American soldier. And then we have a Lewis Morrison collection, another very interesting character. He was a black Jewish officer who fought for both the Confederate and the Union forces in the Civil War. And then we also manage several other small collections that help us tell this very unique history.
Could you tell us about the award that bears your name, recognizing outstanding contributions of Jewish service members?
Yeah, so as a senior enlisted member of an organization for several years as a command sergeant major and a first sergeant, your solemn responsibility is the stewardship of the organization and to care for its people. Their discipline and standard enforcement is obviously core, essential to what we do. But in order to accomplish the mission, you have to have a healthy organization and healthy people in that organization. So one of the tools that I utilized was I used the chaplaincy across all denominations to get out and make sure that my organization was healthy and the people in it were healthy and happy. When I first served, Jewish chaplains were not very present. They were there, they existed throughout much of my career, but they weren't a consequential part of the environment. So I see supporting religious practice and service parallel to preserving the story of Jewish American military history. And then today's history is created today, or tomorrow's history is created today. So I was going to be part of tomorrow's history by doing something positive today. So several years ago, I began working with the Aleph Institute's military wing with Rabbi Eli Estrin. And I served as their de facto senior enlisted advisor and gave them guidance from an enlisted leader's perspective, which is vastly different than an officer's perspective. And they are a Jewish endorsing agency for chaplains. So 2 years ago, we decided to establish awards for the Outstanding Chaplain of the Year, the Lay Leader of the Year, and the Unit of the Year. And we want to honor or to recognize and honor those that do outstanding work to support Jewish service members. So our Unit of the Year last year was USS Abraham Lincoln, who allowed the Jewish chaplain on board to construct a sukkah while they were deployed. So it's a way to recognize the units that support Jewish troops.
What's the best way for our audience to explore and support the Jewish American Military Historical Society?
The best way right now is to explore our website, jewishmilitary.org. We have our collections. We have information on our upcoming events. We have our social media presence as well. And then to support our mission, buying our comic books on our website, there's information on how to buy our comic books. We currently have 3 comic books. We have Jewish Medal of Honor recipients. We have the Revolutionary War and the colonies. We also have the War of 1812, I would say, primarily. And right now we're working on the Texas Revolution and the Mexican-American War comic book. That should come out this summer. And then hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have our first Civil War comic. But the Civil War is incredibly dense, and generally figuring out how to tell the story is just as important as telling the story. So that one might take a little bit longer. So those are available now. And then I really value my partnerships with academics, museums, and other people that are interested in history. So I have a lot of contributors. We have about 100 articles on our website. So if you're inclined, you can reach out and collaborate in that capacity as well.
Thanks so much, Sam, for joining us.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And to our audience, now back to your regularly scheduled lives.
Amusing Jews is here to amuse you. If you like being amused, go ahead and click like and subscribe.